Food safety, or food hygiene, is used as a scientific method/discipline describing handling, preparation, and storage of food in ways that prevent foodborne illness. The occurrence of two or more cases of a similar illness resulting from the ingestion of a common food is known as a foodborne disease outbreak. This includes a number of routines that should be followed to avoid potential health hazards. In this way, food safety often overlaps with food defense to prevent harm to consumers. The tracks within this line of thought are safety between industry and the market, and then between the market and the consumer. In considering industry-to-market practices, food safety considerations include the origins of food, including the practices relating to food labeling, food hygiene, food additives and pesticide residues, as well as policies on biotechnology and food, and guidelines for the management of governmental import and export inspection and certification systems for foods. In considering market-to-consumer practices, the usual thought is that food ought to be safe in the market, and the concern is safe delivery and preparation of the food for the consumer. Food safety, nutrition, and food security are closely related. Unhealthy food creates a cycle of disease and malnutrition that affects infants and adults as well. Food can transmit pathogens, which can result in the illness or death of the person or other animals. The main types of pathogens are bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungus. The WHO Foodborne Disease Epidemiology Reference Group conducted the only study that solely and comprehensively focused on the global health burden of foodborne diseases. This study, which involved the work of over 60 experts for a decade, is the most comprehensive guide to the health burden of foodborne diseases. The first part of the study revealed that 31 foodborne hazards considered priority accounted for roughly 420,000 deaths in LMIC and posed a burden of about 33 million disability-adjusted life years in 2010. Food can also serve as a growth and reproductive medium for pathogens. In developed countries there are intricate standards for food preparation, whereas in lesser developed countries there are fewer standards and less enforcement of those standards. Even so, in the US, in 1999, 5,000 deaths per year were related to foodborne pathogens. Another main issue is simply the availability of adequate safe water, which is usually a critical item in the spreading of diseases. In theory, food poisoning is 100% preventable. However, this cannot be achieved due to the number of persons involved in the supply chain, as well as the fact that pathogens can be introduced into foods no matter how many precautions are taken. Food contamination happens when foods are corrupted with another substance. It can happen in the process of production, transportation, packaging, storage, sales, and cooking process. Contamination can be physical, chemical, or biological. Physical contaminants, or foreign bodies, are objects such as hair, plant stalks, or pieces of plastic and metal. When a foreign object enters food, it is a physical contaminant. If the foreign objects contain bacteria, both a physical and biological contamination will occur. Common sources of physical contaminations are hair, glass or metal, pests, jewelry, dirt, and fingernails. Physical food contamination is a hazardous yet natural accident of contaminating food with dangerous objects around the kitchen or production base when being prepared. If kitchens or other places where food may be prepared are unsanitary, it is very likely that physical contamination will occur and cause negative consequences. Dangerous objects such as glass and wire may be found in food, which can cause many issues with the individuals who consume it, including choking, breaking of teeth, and cutting the insides of the body. Children and the elderly are at the highest risk of being harmed by food contamination due to their weaker immune systems and fragile structures. The most common reasoning for physical contamination to occur is when the food is left uncovered without lids. To prevent such contamination and harm to those consuming food from restaurants, cooks are recommended to wear hair nets, remove jewelry, and wear gloves when necessary, especially over wounds with bandages. Chemical contamination happens when food is contaminated with a natural or artificial chemical substance. 11 common sources of chemical contamination can include pesticides, herbicides, veterinary drugs, contamination from environmental sources, water, air, or soil pollution, cross-contamination during food processing, migration from food packaging materials, presence of natural toxins, or use of unapproved food additives and adulterants. It happens when the food has been contaminated by substances produced by living creatures, such as humans, rodents, pests, or microorganisms. This includes bacterial contamination, viral contamination, or parasite contamination that is transferred through saliva, pest droppings, blood or fecal matter. Bacterial contamination is the most common cause of food poisoning worldwide. If an environment is high in starch or protein, water, oxygen, has a neutral pH level, and maintains a temperature between 5 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius, danger zone, for even a brief period of time, 20 minutes, bacteria are likely to survive. Example of biological contamination, tainted romaine lettuce. In April and May 2018, 26 states in the United States suffered an outbreak of the bacteria strain E. coli 0157H7. Several investigations show the contamination might have come from the Yuma, Arizona, growing region. This outbreak, which began April 10, is the largest U.S. flare-up of E. coli in a decade. One person in California has died. At least 14 of the people affected developed kidney failure. The most common symptoms of E. coli include diarrhea, bloody diarrhea, abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting. Safe food handling procedures, from market to consumer. The 5 key principles of food hygiene, according to WHO, are: 1. Prevent contaminating food with pathogens spreading from people, pets, and pests. 2. Separate raw and cooked foods to prevent contaminating the cooked foods. 3. Cook foods for the appropriate length of time and at the appropriate temperature to kill pathogens. 4. Store food at the proper temperature. 5. Use safe water and safe raw materials. Proper storage, sanitary tools and workspaces, heating and cooling properly and to adequate temperatures, and avoiding contact with other uncooked foods can greatly reduce the chances of contamination. Tightly sealed water and airproof containers are good measures to limit the chances of both physical and biological contamination during storage. Using clean, sanitary surfaces and tools, free of debris, chemicals, standing liquids, and other food types, different from the kind currently being prepared, i.e., mixing vegetables/meats or beef/poultry, can help reduce the chance of all forms of contamination. However, even if all precautions have been taken and the food has been safely prepared and stored, bacteria can still form over time during storage. Food should be consumed within 1 to 7 days while it has been stored in a cold environment, or 1 to 12 months if it was in a frozen environment, if it was frozen immediately after preparation. The length of time before a food becomes unsafe to eat depends on the type of food it is, the surrounding environment, and the method with which it is kept out of the danger zone. Always refrigerate perishable food within 2 hours 1 hour when the temperature is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit 32.2 degrees Celsius. Check the temperature of your refrigerator and freezer with an appliance thermometer. The refrigerator should be at 40 degrees Fahrenheit 4.4 degrees Celsius or below and the freezer at 0 degrees Fahrenheit -17.7 degrees Celsius or below. For example, liquid foods like soup kept in a hot slow cooker, 149 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 degrees Celsius, may last only a few hours before contamination, but fresh meats like beef and lamb that are promptly frozen, -2 degrees Celsius, can last up to a year. The geographical location can also be a factor if it is in close proximity to wildlife. Animals like rodents and insects can infiltrate a container or prep area if left unattended. Any food that has been stored while in an exposed environment should be carefully inspected before consuming, especially if it was at risk of being in contact with animals. Consider all forms of contamination when deciding if a food is safe or unsafe, as some forms or contamination will not leave any apparent signs. Bacteria are not visible to the naked eye. Debris, physical contamination, may be underneath the surface of a food, and chemicals may be clear or tasteless. The contaminated food may not change in smell, texture, appearance, or taste, and could still be contaminated. Any foods deemed contaminated should be disposed of immediately, and any surrounding food should be checked for additional contamination. ISO 22000 is a standard developed by the International Organization for Standardization dealing with food safety. This is a general derivative of ISO 9000. The ISO 22000 international standard specifies the requirements for a food safety management system that involves interactive communication, system management, prerequisite programs, and hazard analysis and critical control points principles. ISO 22000 was first published in 2005. It is the culmination of all previous attempts from many sources and areas of food safety concern to provide an end product that is safe as possible from pathogens and other contaminants. Every 5 years standards are reviewed to determine whether a revision is necessary, to ensure that the standards remain as relevant and useful to businesses as possible. A 2003 World Health Organization, WHO, report concluded that about 30% of reported food poisoning outbreaks in the WHO European region occur in private homes. According to the WHO and CDC, in the USA alone, annually, there are 76 million cases of foodborne illness leading to 325,000 hospitalizations and 5,000 deaths. Health protection measures, specifically food safety inspections, play a crucial role in preventing foodborne illnesses and are implemented by governments globally. The challenge of quantifying the impact of foodborne illness arises from disparities in the effectiveness of public health surveillance systems, variations in reporting, comorbidities, underreporting, diagnostic uncertainties, healthcare accessibility, and individual experiences of illness. In 2010, the World Health Organization estimated approximately 600 million cases of foodborne illness worldwide, resulting in an estimated 420,000 deaths. Governments worldwide have introduced health protection measures and regulatory systems to address foodborne illness. One such method is food safety inspection, which can take different forms at various stages of the food production system. Food safety inspection involves analyzing food samples to determine composition, contamination levels, or quality, particularly in the case of imported foods or those entering the consumer market. Additionally, traditional food safety inspection includes evaluating food handling practices and production environments, commonly applied in the food retail sector, food manufacturing, farms, and slaughterhouses. Inspectors often employ observational and qualitative methods to assess food handling practices and identify potential contamination risks. The implementation of food safety inspection varies across jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions follow a prescriptive approach, setting specific food safety requirements for businesses and using inspection to measure compliance. This compliance check approach typically involves inspection checklists and numerical scoring or grading systems, which may carry different weights for various non-compliances. Regulatory systems often prescribe actions based on score ranges, such as enforcement measures or adjustments to inspection frequency. The application of food safety inspection also differs in motivating compliance. Traditionally, inspections aim to identify and report safety deficiencies to food business operators for resolution within a specified time frame. Regulatory frameworks may include compliance motivators such as monetary penalties and other enforcement measures triggered by inspection findings. In 1963, the WHO and FAO published the Codex Alimentarius, which serves as a guideline to food safety. However, according to Unit 04, Communication of Health and Consumers Directorate General of the European Commission, the Codex, while being recommendations for voluntary application by members, Codex standards serve in many cases as a basis for national legislation. The reference made to Codex food safety standards in the World Trade Organization's Agreement on Sanitary and Phytosanitary Measures means that Codex has far-reaching implications for resolving trade disputes. WTO members that wish to apply stricter food safety measures than those set by Codex may be required to justify these measures scientifically. So, an agreement made in 2003, signed by all member states, inclusive all EU, in the Codex Stan Codex 240/2003 for coconut milk. Sulfite-containing additives like E223 and E224 are allowed till 30 mg per kilogram, does not mean they are allowed into the EU. See Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed entries from Denmark, 2012.0834, 2011.1848, and 2011.168, sulfite unauthorized in coconut milk from Thailand. Same for polysorbate E435, C 2012.0838 from Denmark, unauthorized polysorbates in coconut milk, and 2007.AIC from France. Only for the latter the EU amended its regulations with EU No. 583/2012 per July 2, 2012 to allow this additive, already used for decades and absolutely necessary. Thank you for watching this video.